Hey, friends, thanks for tuning in to yet another exciting episode of Friends of the Squared Circle. I'm your host, Crander Q, aka my real name. As you can see, we have our friend Kiki Roberts joining us today. That's right, a brand new friend at Friends of the Squared Circle. Kiki, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous.
That is right. That is your tagline catchphrase, right?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's my tagline, it's just my life. My
Okay, okay.
tagline is follow the Kiki way. This is how I improve lives through my beauty, enhancing others' beauty. So, as long as you follow the Kiki way, you have some hope of being less, just a little bit less of a swamp donkey.
Never heard swamp donkey. I've heard mud ducks for the people over here in Minnesota, but I've never heard swamp donkey. That is great. And I commented that shirt, off camera. I love it. You got the style. You're fabulous. But let's jump into those first earliest wrestling memories. When do you remember seeing wrestling for the first time?
It'd have to be when I was a child. My parents used to watch it, so I can just remember watching something and seeing George the Animal Steel. That was
Oh,
like
very nice.
the guy that I saw, and I was like enamored with this guy with the green tongue. He
Hmm.
was ripping the turnbuckle apart. So he was like my guy growing up as a little kid. Like that was my first memory is George Steele.
That is great. That's the one you don't hear too much. I just remember his, being fully full of hair, and I just remember, obviously I have a great beard, but I just remember as a kid going, I don't want to be that hairy. Luckily, it's just on my face. I can't grow hair anywhere else. I'm blessed in that, but he kind of freaked me out a little bit. Like you brought up the turnbuckle and the green tongue, and as a kid, you see that for the first time, like this guy is a lunatic, just bigger than life, huge guy, hairy, bald, and ripping a turnbuckle apart with his teeth, so.
For me, it was all about the gimmicks. Like
Mhm.
as a child, it's just about the character. It wasn't I didn't know anything about the moves or anything, and that's
Mhm.
all a lot of it was characters. And so him being this like you said larger than life character, just a wild man. And
Yep.
then later on to find out that this guy was like a professor in school and a coach and it was like, "What? That guy did what?"
Yeah, that's crazy that their, real jobs, didn't reflect what they did in the ring. You mentioned those early gimmicks. Did you have any that you absolutely love? Is there any that you absolutely hate? For me, I love the big boss man, Yokozuna. I didn't really care for Million Dollar Man because I thought he was a jerk. I was able to tell him that much later on that he made me mad as a kid. But was there any cool gimmicks that you gravitated towards or hated?
Um, so more of my like real childhood those were like that George Steele was like my first memory, and
Hmm.
then going probably into like the early 90s is really when I was like involved into wrestling. That's where I really like resonated with it. And uh man, it was so many gimmicks. Bret Hart was my guy, though. That
Okay.
was my guy, Bret Hart. Hands down, anybody against Bret Hart, I did not like. I hated Stone Cold Steve Austin. I hated Shawn Michaels. I did not like these guys whatsoever.
Hmm.
I was also at that same time, which is odd because knowing what we know now, I was
Hmm.
also a Vince McMahon mark. Like that was the guy. So when I was doing my backyard wrestling, I was the Vince McMahon. So anybody that was against Vince McMahon, which was Stone Cold Steve Austin,
Hmm.
I hated that guy. So I never, ever liked Stone Cold Steve Austin until I started wrestling and then I watched him and was like, God, this guy's got the greatest life. Like he doesn't
Hmm.
have to do anything. He just goes out there, causes a lot of trouble, and gets over. It's so awesome. But
Hmm.
growing up as a kid, man, I hated him so much.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's kind of funny. Like, you have your Rocks, your Takers, and again, you mentioned Stone Cold. I wasn't a fan either. Actually, one of my favorite wrestlers was Goldust, and I don't know why I was so like captivated by him, but like, my friends give me a hard time all the time. They're like Goldust, and I was like, yeah, like for some reason, that's the one that I gravitated towards. when I got to meet him, I know you're new to the channel here. I basically told him I was nervous like 7 times. I couldn't even talk. I fangirled out. I got to meet him a second time, and I had to be like the talker for my nephew because my nephew got to meet him. And I told him that story, and he laughed. He's like, "Well, are you nervous now?" And I just got nervous again, and I was like, "Okay, we're gonna go." Um, for his body of work and the things that he's done for the business, amazing. If I met him again, I'd probably freeze up. I've only had that happen with him and Cody, but yeah, I'm a huge Gold Dust guy. You can't see it, but I've got most of it, a couple figures up there from him over the years.
So I'm a big huge fan of Goldust as well too. I love first of all, one of my favorite things in life is Halloween. Like I love
Okay.
Halloween. So any opportunity to put on a costume. And so I've always had the opportunity to do costumes. And one time there was somebody throwing some type of gold party. And I
Hmm.
was like, perfect. I'm going as Gold Dust. So I dressed up. I found like a black and gold Power Ranger costume, is what they called it,
Okay.
at some store. And so I wore that and I painted my face like Gold Dust and I went there as Gold Dust. And I loved it. And then uh, I'm originally from Devon Dudley's school,
Okay.
and so we will do student shows, or we do our matches in the evenings. And one year, just before Halloween, I got a bunch of guys together and I was like, guys, let's do a really like fun match where we all dress up as like a wrestler, right? And so I
Mhm.
dressed up as Gold Dust and I had a girl with me who was Marlena. And I thought it was just, it was so much fun. It was so much
Mhm.
fun. So I'm definitely with you on the Gold Dust thing. I loved Gold Dust even as a kid. I would
Mhm.
pretend to be Gold Dust. I use a lot of his move sets. I
Nice.
um I I watch a lot of things that he does, and I implement a lot of that into my wrestling as well.
That's awesome. Uh, yeah, for me, like I liked him when he wore the wig and the big robe in those first early years. I didn't like what he did the stuttering. I like that he teamed with like our Truth and Booker T and that stuff, but I just felt like he lost kind of that aura around him as he progressed. But then when he came back, he was more serious as it, and I really enjoyed that run as well. I hope he, with the whole Cody thing, I thought he would have been maybe to come back, but he's killing it over there in AEW. You mentioned you watched it with your parents. Did you guys get the chance to go to live events, or was that something that you did much later on?
So my earliest like live event that I went to was in '95. It was a house show.
Okay.
My father took me to that. And then later on down the line, I would kind of just go on my own sort of thing. I was able to be at a King of the Ring 97, I think it
Okay.
was. I was there, which is so funny that you mentioned Gold Dust. I literally have like the gold flakes. I picked up gold flakes that had fallen from when he was like
So
doing his
jealous.
entrance. So I have a few of those gold flakes, but I went to that and I went to a few Raws. I've been to a Thunder, a WCW Thunder.
Nice. Yeah.
So, yeah, I was able to go to a few live events.
It's pretty cool. How do the parents feel about the in-ring action with your career?
So they're super supportive. Like,
That's great.
I talk to my mom all the time, and anytime I have a match, she's like, "All right, where's the video? We want to watch the video." Um, Luckily, a lot of the times when I'm wrestling in Mexico, the matches are live, so they get to like. This is really wild that I'm like living my dream, and my parents get to
Mhm.
watch me live in Mexico.
Is that where you're from then? I guess I didn't ask those questions in the beginning off camera. Are you from Mexico
No,
or?
no, no, no. I
Oh, okay.
just wrestle in Mexico,
Very
so
cool. Okay.
yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge Lucha Libre fan, and that you get to tear it up down there is just awesome. What do you think of like the masks and the outfits and stuff? Is that something that you're kind of into, or do you kind of just like I guess wrestlers without masks. I guess I don't know. I didn't word that properly.
So I would never put a mask over this face. It's way too beautiful,
Oh,
first of
I
all.
don't blame you. I mean, I would. I should get a
But
paper bag right now to put on so I can interview you here, so you don't feel disgusted.
yes, thank you. Um, but
I love it. I love it. Go with it.
but in the one thing, because I help train a lot of the students at Devon Dudley's Academy. And
Hmm.
so the one thing that I take away, and you ask about the mask and the gear, is that the mask and the gear is so um I want to say professional, but it's more than professional. It's just like it's star studded. Like
Hmm.
they look like superstars. They look like superheroes. They're not wearing just jeans and a t-shirt, which you see so often in the States, or I even wrestle in Canada. And so I remember sitting and watching a battle royal in Canada. I'm like, everybody is a black shirt and black jeans, or
Hmm.
like something similar to. I'm like, where is the? And there was like one or two guys that had a character that had color, and I was like, those are the guys that stand out when
Yep.
everybody else is wearing black jeans and t-shirts. And I'm like, this is like what you want to do. Like it just looks so cool. And part of my love for wrestling in Mexico and going to Mexico is that wrestling is the culture.
Hmm.
Like lucha libre is culture in Mexico. It's part of their life. So when you're walking down the street, or you're going through like a park, and there's all vendors, there's people selling food, there's people selling t-shirts, there's people selling lucha libre masks. Like it's so cool to see that. You don't see that often in the States. I don't know that I've ever gone to like
Right.
a county fair and there's like vendors selling the Rock t-shirt or Stone Cold Steve Austin t-shirts. But in Mexico, they're selling the Lucha Libre masks all over the place. Rey Mysterios, Ultimo Dragons, you name it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's one thing I wish we could see a little bit more, because that's what I liked was masks, the face paint. When the Usos first came out, I thought it was so cool that they were donning the face paint. Jeff Hardy's kind of, one of the last few that, has been rocking it for most of his career. But that's one thing I always like gravitated towards the characters, like Sting and Kane. Those guys just, had something different. And you mentioned the similarity, everybody wearing the black shirts and black jeans. And I remember doing a vendor table at a local show, and Teddy Long is standing there, and there's a guy literally just like in his pajama pants and a t-shirt, and he's just like, why the F are you not in gimmick? And I was just like, I'm sorry. And he's like, oh, no, 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 not you. And he's like critiquing everybody around him. And I'm just like, okay. And I got to hang out with him and hand him like candy throughout the night. I helped him find the bathroom. So, like, getting to talk with Teddy Long and just watching him critique everybody. And then everybody was coming up to him, hey, just wondering if you can watch my match. He's like, yeah, if you need me to, but I just remember her critiquing every little thing and just listening to the things that he sees. So that way, like with my podcast, I know, like I always say that podcasters, unless we're like Logan Paul or Zack Ryder, aka Matt Cardona, we're relatively not anybody special right now, till we get to those high levels. But to hear him say things like that, it made me think, oh, what does my table look like? What does my banner look like? Is it clean? Is everything on my table organized? Is it accessible? Like when I have my Sharpies, are they all over the table, or do I have them right next to me so that I can, get them out there, for easy access? Little things like that. So,
I agree with you 1000%. It's so satisfying to actually hear you say that,
mhm.
because I had a tag team partner at one point, and he would be in like his sweatpants and just like one of our gimmick shirts. And I'm like, dude, like you should be in your gimmick. Like, if just think about it. If you were out at a show and Hulk Hogan was standing there,
Mhm.
you don't want Hulk Hogan in his gym clothes. You want Hulk
Yep.
Hogan in the red and yellow,
Yep.
and that's what you want, and that's what these fans want. So anytime I'm ever at my merch table, I'm in my gimmick until the end of the night. I'm packing up and closing up my gimmick table in my gimmicks, and
Hmm.
then I will go into the locker room and I will take my gimmicks off. Because a person wants to take a photo with Kiki Roberts, they don't want to take a photo with,
Yeah, some
the
gym guy.
everyday life,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep. I am going to pause us real quick here. The wife just called. And back to the gimmick stuff. Yeah, another thing that I do too is, I'll show you here up in the corner. I have my logo. One thing I like to do is kind of switch it up per show, and I'll make a special design for that show. Like if there's a wrestler or a Halloween theme, or if I worked with a company called Below Zero one night,
How do I
so I
make
made
it?
my graphic with blue. Pretty
Cool.
simple, easy, right?
Yeah.
Well, then they had a show the next night that I was working called Ignite. So I made the logo with fire. And then I made a third sticker that had the blue and, the fire coming together. So that way, if people saw me both nights, both in the same city, or the next night, they could get, the alternate sticker. So it
Yeah.
had some type of, connection to both shows. That way, I could make it look that I actually cared and tried, like John Cena does with his shirts. And here's a little fun thing: is I've got red, I've got blue. Those are my alternative logos. But when you put red and blue together, you get purple
Purple.
for my. I know it's silly, but
No, it's the small things. It's
it's a
we
little
say
thing that comes that people wouldn't realize.
in wrestling, we always say it's about the little things.
Hmm.
People don't think about those little things, and it's always about those little things. I'm always constantly,
Hmm.
my biggest thing is my merchandise. I'm always trying to think of new merchandise, new ways to market things, new images, all of that stuff, new
Yep.
things to offer. Just like you said, you offered like the different colors for the stickers.
Hmm.
I was making sure that my shirts were not a black or white shirt.
Okay.
So I had I had hot pink shirts, which clearly went with me.
Hmm.
But now I even have leopard print shirts. Who's
No,
selling leopard print shirts? Nobody's selling
nobody.
leopard print shirts out there, right? I have leopard print hats. Like nobody's doing that. And that also falls within my gimmick, like my gear. I have
Hmm.
leopard print in my gear. I have leopard print on my boots. So I try and keep
Hmm.
everything. I'm like really hot on leopard print right now though. So
I love it. I love it. Do you mix the hot pink with the leopard? Because that would
yeah.
make a sweet bucket hat. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have. So if I have my gear here, but on my boots, I put the leopard print is in gold, black, and hot pink,
Okay, nice, nice.
and then I
I'm a
have that
sucker
on my
for
gear
pink,
as well.
and there's nothing wrong with wearing pink, folks. I like,
No,
you said your favorite was growing up was Bret Hart.
yeah.
You're rocking it. I love pink. I get a lot of people on like, what's your favorite colors? I'm like, white, pinks, pastels. I like those colors and I think they're great. So,
So
um,
I try with my merchandise, I try and keep a color scheme so that
yeah,
it's always relatable to me. Like you said, with
yep.
purple for you, I'm always my base colors are pink, white, gold, and black. So I
Mhm.
always try and keep those colors in the rotation,
And that's
try
great
like with my
because,
gear or my
yeah,
merchandise.
yeah, like you said, no one's using, necessarily those colors unless they're using with a black and white shirt. And that's a lot of things that I try to tell my friends too. Like, we discussed off camera how you had your phone the other way.
Yeah,
Simple little fix to make the visual better. It's little things like that, not eating or smoking or drinking during a podcast because you want to seem professional. Now,
yeah.
obviously, we can throw a Coke back or, something like that. But like, I don't want people drinking on my show. I don't want them smoking or doing
Oh, of course not.
that stuff. I don't care that they do, but I want to have that type of you know presentation where I feel professional. You know,
Unless it's product placement.
yeah, unless I'm dropping somebody like that. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
did.
drink my Celsius.
Yeah, I'll yeah, I'll I drank a beer on the Austin 316 video that we had, and I don't like beer. I'm gonna put it out there now for the internet to come roast me later. Is I dumped out the beer that I bought, rinsed out that can, soap and water, no joke. And then I bought a Rockstar energy drink and dumped it in there so I could chug it
Wise man.
during the 316 video. So, folks, if you're watching that old episode with me and Mike D from Wrestling from the 313, there's a little behind the scenes take for you. But yeah, I don't like beer, but I thought it'd be funny to pretend to chug a beer for Stone Cold Day. So
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't drink beer. I drink high end bourbon, whiskey. That's part of following the Kiki way. Beer is trash water. That's for the swamp donkeys.
please tell me you have that on a shirt, because if you don't, you need to, because that's
Oh, I do.
oh,
Yes.
that's awesome. I
So
need to
I
get me a Kiki Roberts shirt.
yeah, I have a shirt that says "No one ugly allowed," and it's a person. It's funny that you said you should be wearing a paper bag. That's the whole. That's in the works in my mind, anyways. Is to merchandise paper bags that say "Swamp Donkey" on it with the eyes cut out. So I have that on a T-shirt where it's a guy with a paper bag over his face. It says "Swamp Donkey" on it, and it says "No one ugly allowed."
I'm definitely glad that you dropped your standards to come on this show today and put up with a host like me. Yeah, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. I know we're talking about you, but we're going to branch out a little bit here because we're having a lot of fun. Who is fabulous in the wrestling world, in your opinion? Give me 5 gals or guys that you find fabulous in wrestling right now. And if there's none, I'll take that as an answer as well.
All right, so
We know you're
right,
number one. We just got to find the
this is
other
very
5 bullets.
clear.
Yep.
I actually had the hots for Mandy Rose for quite a while.
Okay.
I thought she was just drop dead gorgeous. Going back to what you were saying, like other icons that I really liked was all of the females. I was so attracted to China. Like Brett was my number one. China was my like number two, but it was almost like a neck and neck between those two. Man, who else is fabulous now? That's a tough question. I'm really digging Tony Storm
Okay.
and what she's doing. It's
Yep.
so different. It's so unique. It's classic. It's a gimmick, and it's just. I'm really digging that.
I love
right
the
now.
black and white. Like it's definitely
different.
Yep.
It's very similar to what Goldust was doing with his entrance when he would have like that movie picture type of entrance, right? So it's very similar. It's just very unique. I'm a very like vintage loving type of person. Like I listen to literally I'll listen to like Ella Fitzgerald and jazz and stuff one day, like
nice.
on the low. So when I seen that like 1920s vibe going on, I was like, oh, I'm so here for this with the butler and all that. Oh, I was like, this is really good.
Yeah, I liked her when she was in WWE, but I feel that AEW stuff is better. Just because, like I said, the black and white, no one's doing it. And then, like when they did an interview, like half of it was color and the half was black and white, and I just thought that was hilarious. And then when they were posting pictures of her on posters, she was in black and white. So I made one about, hey, what's your thoughts on Tony Storm? And I made my graphic black and white to go with that because I thought that was fitting, not just putting like trying to stay within that realm,
I also am really enjoying Ariana as like Miss NXT.
Okay.
And which is crazy. She came to Devon Dudley School to train, so I trained with her to get ready for her tryout and everything with NXT. So to see her doing this, which is very fitting of her, is so amazing. So like I kind of piggyback off of her on Twitter. Like the other day, she was like, wash with like take a shower and wash or something, they said that she had mentioned, and I was like, I completely agree with that. And especially like soap can be so inexpensive if you just clip a coupon nowadays. And I have another gimmick that I have in the works to sell at my merch table is Swamp Donkey soap. I have the mold already made. I have all the stuff. I just got to do it. But it was going to come with instructions on how to actually bathe.
That is amazing. I love it. I need some merch from you for sure. It's unique. I think you crossed paths with one of our sponsors here at Friends of Squared Circle, Darren Corbin. I believe you had a
Why does it
match with
sound
him,
familiar?
or am I thinking somebody else?
Why is it his name sound familiar?
He's out of Minnesota. He's done some stuff in Florida, I believe, with First Wrestling. I don't know if you're familiar with that out of Minneapolis.
Hmm. No, maybe if I see a picture. I don't know that
Okay,
maybe I did have a match with him. I'm just not remembering it.
gotcha.
Maybe in Chicago, maybe sometime back.
Chicago. Yep. Is a Dreamwave there? They've got
When I
what else?
was when I was working in Chicago, it was before the pandemic, and so I was working with oh man, I did a match for oh crap. They have an underground. What is that one called? Uh they have the school there in Chicago too.
Yeah, there's so many. Yeah,
Oh man, I
I,
can't
I
remember
just
the
know
name.
mostly Minneapolis,
But
but
I was mainly working with Wrestle League
okay,
in Chicago.
gotcha.
So it's
Uh,
possible.
so let's just touch on kind of how you got started into wrestling quick before we wrap it up here. What was the process like for you? Was it hard finding a school? Did you already have an in? What was your process?
It was not hard finding a school. Uh Honestly, so I was working at a 24-hour fitness one day.
Okay.
Well, not just one day, but one day I was working and wrestling happened to be on the screen. Raw or SmackDown or something was on the screen. It was WWE. And I just glanced over because being a fan, I had stopped watching wrestling for a very long time. When I got to high school, I
Mhm.
was like, oh, I can't be watching wrestling. It's not that cool. So I stopped watching wrestling and I hadn't picked it up for quite a long time. Maybe like 2015 is when I got back into wrestling. But I just happened to watch wrestling and I didn't have any like audio to it. I was just
Mhm.
watching it, and it was a segment with Jim Ross, and then somebody was bullying Jim Ross, I think, and Ryback came out to like protect him. And just that moment, just watching, I was like, bro, I could do that. Like,
Mhm.
that is so amazing. Like, just that moment alone, I could do that. And that got me interested in finding a school. And I was looking around and I saw the Dudleys had a school locally. And then I saw the price of the school. And I was like, God, I can't
Mhm.
afford that. That's so expensive. So I kind of like put the idea on a back burner, but that kind of got me back into wrestling. But what really got me back into wrestling was Legends House.
Oh, okay.
I saw that Legends House because, like I said, I'm a big like guy for
Mhm.
the '80s and '90s. Like that's my stuff. Like I go
Yep.
back and I watch. I watch stuff from the '40s, '50s, '60s, '70s, '80s. As old as I can go back, I can watch that stuff and really enjoy it. And so when it was like all these legends, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna watch this. Hillbilly Jim. I used to love watching Hillbilly
Mhm.
Jim. He was such a big gimmick, and I used
Yep.
to love watching him. So seeing that he was in the house, Mean Gene Okerlund, that got me interested in wrestling. So I started watching the network to watch that, and that got me right back into wrestling. I am going to like the Royal Rumble in 2015 or something, the one where Roman had to wrestle everybody in the Rumble.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So I went to that where AJ Styles made his return. See, I was so out of wrestling, I didn't even know who AJ Styles was. Everybody was losing their shit in the arena, and I was like, "Who is this guy?" And I'm over here popping for Goldust. Let me tell you, like Goldust is making entrance. I'm over here popping for
Yep.
Goldust. Everybody's losing their shit when AJ Styles comes in. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is because I was so out of the
Mhm.
picture. And so, anyways, ended up stop. I stopped working at the gym, but while I was working at the gym, one of the girls that I was working with was dating one of Devon's sons.
Oh, okay.
So I had stopped working in the gym, but she knew that I was very interested in wrestling. So while I started working at a bank at that time. I was working for Wells Fargo as a banker, and she had messaged me. Devon Dudley's academy. Well, it was called Team 3D at the time. It was
Mhm.
Devon and Bubba at the time. They were running a special, $1,000, and you could train for a year. I was like, oh, $1,000. I had just literally closed on my home equity for my house. And so I had a home equity line of credit nothing on it. The first thing I did was withdrew $1,000 from that home equity line of credit, and I went and signed up for the wrestling school.
Very
And
cool.
so that was like October is when I went in to sign up for it. But like I told you, I love Halloween. So I told
Mhm.
them I can't commit to you guys right now. Halloween is about to come up. I didn't tell them that, but I was like, I just have some commitments and I want to be committed to you guys. So as soon as November hits, I'm going to come back and join, but I want to pay my tuition for the 1 year. And as soon as like that moment came, I actually ended up losing my job
Oh
with
boy.
Wells Fargo. I ended up losing my job with Wells Fargo, and then I ended up breaking up with my boyfriend at the same time. So it was like all of that happened at once, and I was like, oh crap. So
Right.
I kind of went into like, I don't necessarily say it was depression, but I kind of like, all I did was eat, sleep, and went to the gym. Eat, sleep, went to the gym until finally in February, I was like, all right, I got to start this wrestling thing. But in the meantime, I was training to go to wrestling. So what I would do was I would watch every single episode of Tough Enough and I would
Hmm.
try to implement everything that they're doing on this show so that when I get to the school, my conditioning and my cardio and my physical abilities are up to par with everything that they're going to do because I need to be ready to
Right.
go. And so I came into the school and I started training there. I was trained Devon and Bubba weren't really there very much because Devon was working for WWE at the time. I think Bubba was as well too.
Okay.
Bubba came around every now and then, but they had Billy Gunn come in and start
Oh,
training.
nice.
So a lot of my training was Billy Gunn in the beginning, but also Serpentico was like the main trainer at the school. So that
Okay.
was really my grassroots was Serpentico and Billy Gunn. And
Nice.
then I just kind of stayed at the school just because I always want my conditioning to be top tier. And
Right.
that's the one thing that Devon Dudley School and Team 3D is known for is conditioning. You cannot blow up a Team 3D or a DDA student. You just can't do it. We get put through the ringer so tough on our conditioning and our cardio before we even get inside the ring, and then when we get in the ring, we're doing even more cardio and
Mhm.
conditioning. So our like conditioning is just top tier. And I always try to keep that same level consistently. The whole mantra of always have your bags packed. That's part of having your bags packed is having
Mhm.
your physical ability to go when the time is called.
Definitely, definitely. Well, before we wrap it up here, let's plug all those social medias. Where can people find you? Any upcoming shows? Anything you want to plug? Here's the opportunity. And before we go, if you have a Dudley Boy story, if you're willing to share it, if not, we can wrap it up. And we definitely got to get you on another episode here and keep talking about your fabulous fandom. I know we kind of went more with the podcasting stuff, but yeah, let's. Where can we find you first?
You can find me on every social media outlet: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, or whatever they're calling it these days.
Mhm.
It's all the same handle, Mr. Kiki Roberts.
Perfect.
YouTube as well, the fabulous Kiki Roberts. All pretty much 90% of my matches are listed on there. If
Okay.
they're not under my page, there's a playlist with my Canadian matches, with my Mexico matches, with my US matches, with my Devon Dudley Academy matches. So all of my body of work is there. It's not hard to find me on YouTube.
Perfect. And we'll start sharing some of those on our page as well. Get you some likes and follows. Hopefully, we can get you some more fabulous followers here. And then I'll make sure all the ugly people stay away.
Yes. Also, I do have a T Publix website that you can go to and you can get my t-shirts. Pretty much all of the designs are there. You get to choose the article of clothing that you want to put it on. You can put it on a t-shirt, you can put it on a tank top, you can put it on a hoodie, you can put it on a baby onesie, you can put it on a hat, a pillow, a mug, you name it. They have so many options. You
Very
get to
nice.
choose the color, size, fabric. You just choose what you want in that image, and you can get it. I just released like 4 new shirts for a Pride theme, and they're
Perfect.
on sale right now for $15.
Nice. Definitely check that out. With your permission, we'll make sure to throw that stuff up on our
Yeah.
Facebook. And like I said, hopefully we get you some traction. I know we're small time right now, but we're looking at the big time. So, Kiki, I can't thank you enough for being a friend of the Squared Circle. Love to get you on another episode and keep diving into that fandom and as well more stories from you. And your time there. But in closing, if you want to be just like Kiki, not as fabulous as Kiki, and be on an episode of Friends of the Squared Circle, hit us up on Facebook, send us a message, tell us you want to come on, and we will get you in that seat. And again, it's your boy, Crander Q. Crander Q out.